McKinney versus Erick Gonzalez. Now, Erick is the biggest underdog on the entire fight card, and that is for a reason.
And it's kind of weird because Terrance coming off a loss too. So it's not like Terrance on a win streak and he's fighting Erick.
But he was on a win streak and then he lost on short notice. So
yeah, well, and he was beating Drew up until he lost.
Yeah. Now this is a weird one because I see why Erick is the underdog, but there are going to be some opportunities here for him to capitalize on. Unfortunately, he's not the fighter to capitalize on the mistakes that more than likely will be made.
Exactly, especially with his striking. I'm not too impressed with his striking. If his striking was a little bit better, then he'd have a chance.
And his striking is not even bad. It's just, as the fight goes on, he likes those back and forth brawls. But this is MMA. You don't get too many opportunities to keep making mistakes and having wild brawls and walk away with the W. That's the name of the game, is whoever makes the mistakes, they get capitalized on, and that's the end of the fight.
I'm going to tell you one thing. I haven't seen Jim Miller knock out too many people in the UFC. So he's one of Jim Miller's only knockouts in the UFC. That's pretty embarrassing.
Yeah, that is crazy because Jim ain't known for just knocking people out
and then
with
hands. And then the way he got knocked out was really embarrassing. Because the left hand, he threw it and he landed it a couple times in the first round. And then right prior to him knocking him out in the second round, he landed the same left hand. And he just kept on landing it over and over again.
He actually landed it about 2 or 3 times before that happened.
So Erick's IQ is not there, to be honest with you. That's the one thing that stands out from him.
He's not an IQ fighter. He feeds off the crowd. It's an energy thing. It's
like,
not.
You talking like Leonard Garcia was?
Yeah,
like Leonard Garcia.
That's
kinda?
exactly.
But
what
he don't have the power. Well, Leonard didn't have power either.
He really didn't. But he's almost like that. Like he's like an energy fighter, not an IQ fighter who is aware of all the different aspects of what's going on and trying to get the W. And it seems like he's more just having fun than anything.
And the funny thing is, that actually works against fighters who don't have cardio.
Yeah.
The thing is, what if Terrance can't get him out in the first round?
And that's where it does kind of fall into Terrance's hands, because Terrance has this thing about trying to get the first round KO or the first round finish. Look, at a certain level, everything not about to end in the first round. You cannot put that kind of burden on yourself to get people out of there in the first round. It's going to happen sometimes. But look at the best fighters in the world. How many times did GSP get somebody out of there in the first round? How many times did Israel get out of there? It depends on what you're trying to do. If you're just trying to be one of those Chris Lieben types, one of those types that people get excited to see, but they don't necessarily win a whole lot compared to how many times they lose, then yeah, you can do that. But you're going to get similar results than to that Drew Dober fight.
Especially when you look at Erick Gonzalez's record, he only been knocked out one time. And you would think that the way he fight, him being wild and reckless, you would think that he's been knocked out more times than that. So what if Terrance can't knock him out? It's not like he's been knocked out 2 or 3 times. He only been knocked out one time.
He is very tough.
And to be honest, well, another thing is, I don't think he respected Jim Miller's power. That's why he was walking forward.
That's true.
And maybe he respects Terrance's power, and it's enough for him to impose his game plan on Terrance.
But he's not going to have a game plan. We watched enough fights from Erick Gonzalez to see he does not fight with a game plan. At least Terrance has a goal in mind. Let me get you out of there in the first round. That's something. You're fighting with intent. Erick just fighting because he likes fighting, which is cool, but you in the UFC. You don't get to stick around because you like fighting. You stick around from winning. And your approach to fighting is not a winning approach in the UFC. That's what, I don't want to say bothers me, but it is something that I'm concerned about, because I want to see a game plan. I don't care if you're just trying to get the guy to the ground. I don't care if you're trying to put him in a bad position so you can get the stoppage, but I need to see some type of intent on your fighting approach, not just swinging at air and what, if the knockout happens, it happens. If it don't, then, because a lot of his fights before the UFC, he was getting outstruck by some people that he should not have been getting outstruck by. And he was able to rely on that double leg takedown. The takedown is not going to be there at this fight.
Another thing that's odd about Erick, he only has 1 submission. So to say he fights that wild, you would think he have like 3 or 4 rear naked chokes or guillotines.
That's true.
He don't really take that many chances on the ground like you would think.
That is odd. So majority of his fights do end by knockout. I believe this one will as well, but Terrance will be the one.
But we would like to see Terrance slow things down too.
Yes.
Be more composed. He kind of remind me of a young, small Anthony Johnson. Because when Anthony Johnson first fought, he was reckless. He was getting 30-second knockouts, 10-second knockouts. And then as he matured and got older, he started to slow down things and set up the right hand and set up the right uppercut.
Yeah, you have to believe in yourself. I think sometimes whenever you just have an approach like that, it's more so of a belief thing, and you think that if I can get it over with as fast as possible, regardless of the result, I'll say I want the first round finish, but it's more of a let me get in and get out type thing. But you got to believe you belong in there, and you do.
Yeah, it's mental.
But you know, you do belong in there, even if it's 15 minutes. I know you want the finish, but you do belong to be in there for 2 rounds. And you know, you do belong to be in there for 15 minutes and get the job done in a variety of ways, because we know that he can. Another thing is Terrance does have submissions as well. Like Terrance actually, he won a fight in the UFC by
7.
Bro, 5 wins by KO, 7 by submission. So, hey, now he does have 3 KO losses. One of them came recently. That was on short notice. One was a flying knee. I didn't see that fight. I'll have to go back and watch. This was a TKO injury. So that is something to be aware of. But again, I believe that comes back down to what's the mentality when you in there. You got to be in control of the fight. You can't let the fight get ahead of you. We went back and watched a lot of Terrance fights, and it's a lot of scrambles that weren't intentional. They would just go with the flow, wild things happening. There were fights where he was rolling backwards, and fights that he won, we could have got injured. And it's like, man, even when he came to the UFC, he knocked the guy in the 7 seconds and turned around and messed his leg up. It's like, look, you got to slow it down. You got to slow it down.
And you don't want to be known as a brawler, too. Because we see some guys that come to the UFC that get 3 or 4 wins by knockout. Johnny Walker.
Yeah.
And they get put in the category of being a brawler or 50-50 fighter. Either I'm going to win by knockout or lose by knockout. And we want to see Terrance on a win streak in the top 10.
With longevity and a good career. So this should be the start of getting back on a win streak. I'm taking Terrance McKinney by something.
By anything in the first round.
And to be fair, I don't even want to see it in the first round. I say
decision.
Not even decision. Second round. Stop being afraid of the second round, man. The second round is not your enemy. Now, if you can get somebody out of there, don't get me wrong. Get them out of there. But don't put a bunch of wild pressure on yourself to do something every single time, because it's just unrealistic. And then you find somebody who ain't only been knocked out once. Come on.
Exactly.
Well, can you beat this guy by knockout? Yes. Will you? Maybe. You know, so